Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today, Jennifer Rooker, the Perception Facilitator.
This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Sam Page can't join us today, unfortunately, but Jennifer Rooker is back after visiting with Jody Lynn last week, and I hear that was a pretty cool interview you guys did together.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, her co-host, it was great, Heather. It was a lot of fun. It's
Excellent.
always good to, bounce on and off different podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's, well, first of all, that's how you build your connections, but also that's how you build your perspectives.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got those different perspectives, right?
That's right.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of perspectives, we have a really interesting perspective joining us today, actually in the form of a human being named Fitz Koehler. And Fitz, first of all, your story is clearly an inspiring one. You have a number of books out. I believe the first one in the series was called My Noisy Cancer Comeback. I like the title.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
like, I'm daring to come back to screw the rest of you. That's basically what that says to me. And you have another one coming out now. I believe it's Your Healthy Cancer Comeback. Is that right?
Yeah, Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong. And then another one called the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. So it's the Cancer Comeback 3-pack.
So, okay, that's good. I like that. So you've got the whole routine going here, but you got to give us the background on this because, first of all, anybody who hears that C word gets a little scared, which is quite understandable. Right. And you had to face that. How did you overcome it? Tell us the story.
Well, try to condense it, right? It's a long story short. So I'm a fitness expert. I'm a professional race announcer, a keynote speaker, very athletic, healthy, doing almost all of the right things. Back in 2018, now I'll start off with in late December, like December 27, 2018, I went in for my annual mammogram and walked out with a clean bill of health. My scans were sparkly clean. There was nothing there. And many radiologists have gone back over them. Less than 7 weeks later, I was at a race weekend to run a race. I came out of the shower and I rubbed my underboob and I found a tumor. And it was a lump to me, but I knew what it was. And within a week, I had the scans and the biopsies done and confirmation that I did indeed have cancer. And not only was it a tumor in my breast, but it had already spread to my lymphatic system. It was it was a wildfire within me. It was charging hard, trying to take me out. And thank God that I squeezed my stuff or I would be dead. I might be one of those girls you were talking about instead of two. So, that set off a chain reaction of WTF, like what is going on? I wasn't obviously someone you would expect to be sick in any regard, but I also, why not me? There's a lot of perfectly healthy, wonderful people that are diagnosed with cancer all the time. And so my treatment schedule was 15 months of chemo, which is a very long time to have chemo. Most of my friends are having like 4 months or 6 months, which sucks as it is. 15 months was a really long time. I had 33 rounds of radiation. I had surgeries in between there, but and I can say that the surgeries themselves are not the surgeries. The treatment made me very sick. So I was the prototypical cancer patient. I lived with what felt like food poisoning every single day, at least for the first 6 months. I was just exploding with sickness. And then the last 10 months of chemo were still awful, not as awful. Other side effects came. But the most important thing happened before I started treatment, and those were I made some really good decisions. I made fantastic decisions, which is where I have the real credibility to be able to help people. And so, number one, I chose perspective. I could have had a big pity party. I could have wide mead. And did I cry? I did. I was terrified, and I really was worried about not watching my kids grow up. But before cancer, I used to always say, whenever something happened, car accident, this or that, I'd say, oh, it's not cancer. And then fine. And then all of a sudden, boom, it was cancer. And so I had to adjust, and I did. And so my new mantra became, well, I'm not a kid with cancer, because that would be way worse. And it's not my kid with cancer. And so because of those things, I'm going to put on my big girl panties and I'm going to figure out, I'm just going to get through it. So no pity parties, keep perspective. Number two, I chose to pursue my passions no matter what. And again, I had no idea what kind of hideous ride I was in for, but I chose that, number one, I wasn't going to miss out on special time with my teenage kids. So if they had a show, a ceremony, a sport, I was going to be there come hell or high water, and I lived up to that. And then the other thing is that I decided I was not giving up my career. Now, I stand on some of the most coveted stages in sports. I announced some of the largest, most iconic running events in the entire country, extraordinary events with thousands of incredible people. I was not going to blow it. So I decided I'm going to keep going. I don't care what cancer does to me. I'm going to keep going. And I did. I figured out a way with all the sickness, with all the suffering. I figured it out. And you know what? If I didn't figure that out, all I would have been was sick. And instead, I traveled the country having more adventure than most healthy people do in a decade.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really something. Yeah. That takes a great deal of, first of all, mindset,
Yeah.
but also it takes some courage to say, you know, basically what you were saying was, I'm going to live.
Yes.
The heck with this. I'm going to live.
Well, it's interesting, the mindset now, especially from COVID, everyone says, duck and cover, hide, put on a mask, isolate. No, I mean, if you're contagious with any sort of thing, okay, don't go infect people. But I wasn't contagious. I wasn't worried that a cold was going to kill me. I just, being home and alone and just basking in the misery is not a good recipe for success.
No.
Going out to surround myself with thousands of sweaty, germy strangers who had smiles on their face and were living their best life, that was the best, because I tell you what, again, so sick. It was, it's hard to describe. I would sleep on the hotel bathroom floors, because that's where you sleep when you're sick. And then my alarm would go off at 4:30, and I would drag myself up, get ready, and drag myself to the start line. But the second I stepped on those stages, everything that was wrong with me disappeared.
Wow.
Everything. All of a sudden, I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again. And the reason, two things: adrenaline, and then B, my focus was on them, not me. And I had a great responsibility to them. And so whether the event lasted 3 hours or 10 hours, I was a freaking machine, not because I'm superhuman, but because I made good decisions and created this incredible career. I hope everybody who has a job loves what they do, loves it so much that you would do it while sick with cancer, because that place was my refuge. Anytime I had an athlete on the course, I felt great. It was the greatest gift I could have given myself. So where other people would have said, you know what, take a year and a half off. You're sick. You've got cancer. That would have been the worst decision on earth for me. And, was it hard? Absolutely. Was it awesome? Absolutely.
Why do you think that continuing to do what you love and, in essence, taking your mind off of what you're dealing with, why do you think that made such a big difference?
Because again, I mean, what's the benefit of just being sick? I was sick. I couldn't do anything about it. There was nothing that was going to take away my stomach issues or my headaches or whatever, other than just simply distracting myself with something fantastic. Sometimes the fantastic thing was my kid on the stage performing in a play. Sometimes the thing was being on morning news, and sometimes it was a race. But yeah, people should have those things, whatever your passions are, whether it's a book or you love singing music or listening to music or helping animals. Do those things, and don't wait till you're sick to do them. Do them every flipping day. Every day counts. Maybe one day you lose your arms and you think, gee whiz, I wish I would have petted more dogs. So use your arms while you got them.
Something else comes to my mind as you're saying all that too, which is wonderful, by the way. The thing that comes to my mind is that this is all a matter of choice that you're talking about here. You're talking about the choices that are within your control, within your power. And in the process of making those choices, you really were changing your life.
Yeah.
Now, that also raises a second question. You mentioned you hope people have their passion. There are a lot of people who have never figured out what their passion is. What if they're in a situation like you were in and they don't know what their passion is?
Figure it out damn quick. And for me, it's this big booming career. Fine. So I've been working on this for a very long time, but people enjoy stuff. Your passions could simply be, you like playing soccer. You like kicking the ball. Okay. Well, maybe you're sick or you had surgery. You can't play soccer. Can you watch soccer on TV? Could you go watch a local high school team play soccer? Can you read a book about soccer? I mean, there's things where we just do for enjoyment. It's not so complicated. I know every single person can probably come up with a list of 3 things that that make them happy, and do those things. Always do those things.
I love that. That's great. Jennifer, what are you thinking about here?
Well, I'm just wondering, what is the new book about? Because where did that inspire? Like, what changed from the first book to the second book? And tell us about the second book. I'm really curious to get into it now.
Yeah, thanks. So My Noisy Cancer Comeback is a memoir. It's my adventures and misadventures and all the weird things that went on for me. And we talk a lot about mental fortitude. The next books are inspired by when I hit rock bottom, when I had lost all the weight and I looked like the skeleton, and I was still bald, and the weakness was dramatic. And when I was in that very low point, I thought, well, I know exactly how I'm going to rebuild my body. I have this beautifully strategically designed plan in my head, and I'm going to earn my way back, not only to fit, but healthy and athletic. I'm going all the way, better than before. But as I was, circling the drain at rock bottom, I was thinking about my peers, the other cancer patients and survivors who had hit rock bottom and had absolutely no idea how to dig their way out of that hole. I mean, we all watch it. I've lost family members, my dad, my grandmas, close friends to cancer. Even if you watch it, even if you sit next to the person, even if it's your spouse, you still don't get it until you're inside that body who's been brutalized by chemo treatment in general. It's unbearable. And so those people, my heart broke for. I was sitting there at that point not thinking about me, thinking like, whoa, can you imagine being so sick and having no path forward? So Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong, is a very thorough guidebook. It's a blueprint for cancer patients and survivors to dig their way out of that hole through exercise, through nutrition, through quality rest, through complementary care. And when I say exercise, I mean at all levels. So yeah, sure, running is exercise, but if you've just had surgery, maybe walking down the hospital hallway is exercise. If you can't exercise standing up, perhaps you're going to do it in a chair. Here's dozens of photos with instructions in the book for exercising in a chair. If you can't sit up today and you're stuck in bed, here's dozens of exercises you can do while lying in bed. If you're like me and you were exploding with sickness and you had to take 3-4 showers a day, then you stretch in the shower. And so it targets all of those things that one could only figure out were necessary if you went through it. And I would use exam rooms as an opportunity to be active and have some fun, because the second you're diagnosed, all of a sudden most of your days are filled with these appointment after appointment. You're always locked in that room. So that room is your special space. Can you do squats in the chairs? Can you stretch on the exam table? Yeah. Can you draw funny pictures on the exam room table paper? That paper tablecloth they give you. I used to draw pictures for my doctors. I would draw glove monsters. I would steal the gloves. If he gave me happy news, I'd give him the happy glove monster. If he gave me bad news, I'd give him the grouchy face. So, it's thorough. And then the companion journal is a place for everybody to write all their cancer details, their appointments, their diagnosis, and all the details about their disease. But then, their fears, their faith, their friends. Which friend is the best shoulder to cry on? Who sends the funniest texts? What have you named your tumor? Does your port have a nickname? What celebrities do you look like bald? So, yes, it's full of the details, but it's also hopefully cathartic and a lot of fun. And the very back half of the book, which is sizey, is a daily fitness log. So you put in all of your nutrition, your exercise, your rest, and then track your progress until you get back all the way to healthy and strong.
I love that, because you think that, and again, I've never had cancer, but like how you're saying, you don't know until you're there, but I can only imagine, right, how your mindset would be going, there's no way out of this. So when you have something like that, it's like a guide. Like each day there's motivation, inspiration, really innovative distraction to do things on the path of betterness, and to dive into everything rather than deflect from it is so important. I find so many people in my line of work they'll come to me and they are deflecting from what's going on in their lives, trying to run away from it. Got to go to a yoga class, got to get out of my head, got to go meditate and stop thinking, got to go do this. We use all these things that we think are spiritual and evolved to actually medicate ourselves. So it sounds like, you know, in your book, like you've been saying, like, what emotion are you feeling? Like you're actually shining light on what is. And that is so important because we can't transform anything if we're trying to deflect and run away from it.
Yeah. And it's a deep time. You know, it's interesting, the things that swirl in the back of your head. So my doctor was pretty adamant from the start that we are going to cure you. He said 94% of all breast cancer cases are curable. Yours is specifically curable. You're just going to have to endure the cure, which was punishing, right? So I believed him, but then I also kind of just had it swirling in the back of my head. And, you know, I worried about my dog. You know, my family takes great care of my dog, but she was my dog. You know, what was going to happen to Piper if something happened to me? Maybe I died in surgery, right? I started thinking, oh God, my kids don't know how to cook real food. They need to cook real food. And I had these experiences with my son one day. It was, he was hungry and I actually had the energy to stand at a stove. I was, Parker, let me teach you how to cook. No, Mom, I don't want to. Parker, come on over. It'll be fun. You'll help me cook chicken. I don't want to. No. Parker, come out here. I might die. I didn't say that, but I thought it. So having a place to write this stuff down, it was very cathartic. And I think other people are going to be able to release a lot that they might have stored up trying to protect those around them by using the journal.
Mm-hmm. Do you have recipes or anything in there too? Just talking about cooking. Do you have any recipes? No. Are you ever thinking of doing something like that?
So my very first book was called the Everything Flat Belly Cookbook. So that's still in existence. But no, I don't have any recipe books. You know what? When I had cancer, it tasted like, or when I had chemo, everything tasted like it was covered in black dirt. So I don't know if I'm a really good authority on telling people how to, like I could teach them how to have healthy food, and I have, but I'm not sure if I can make stuff taste good with cancer. I leave that.
Does it make your taste buds go away? It
does. So it depends on what kind of cancer you have, but mine was a quick moving cancer, HER2 positive, which meant it was rapidly dividing cells. You know, they just kept going. So the chemo I had targeted rapidly dividing cells. Now, things that are that have rapidly dividing cells in your body are like your digestive system, from your mouth on out. Everything, all that pink stuff in there is quick turnover. Your fingernails, your hair. That's why people go bald with some cancers is, you know, the rapidly dividing cell chemo makes you bald. My friend Phil, has stage 4 colon cancer. I don't think he's lost one hair on his head. He's had a year of chemo and he's still has all of his hair. So, when it affects your pink stuff, your taste buds go. Just kills your taste buds. And everyone has a different response, but mine, every bite I took tasted like it was black dirt. And I don't know why it was black, but it was black. It wasn't white sand. It was black dirt and on my food. It was very strange.
Did you eat healthy? I mean, you didn't make a cookbook on it, but was that like a focus?
I did. Yeah. So very much my healthy habits, they got me through, whereas I might have been in deep, deep doo-doo, as my dad would say, had I not pursued exercise to my max ability and nutrition. So while my stomach curbed the things I could have, everything I ate was healthy. So I had a series where all I ate were Kind bars, which are nuts and seeds and chocolate, and tangerines. I probably would have 8 tangerines a day, guacamole. You know, there was a short list of things I could have, but I would just gobble those up. And instead of leaning on French fries and cookies and things like that, I stuck with stuff that was going to help. Because really with cancer, there's food that helps and food that hurts. And the food that helps, you know, some of it, I'm not going to say raspberries are going to kill your cancer. You should definitely stick with the Western medicine, but it's boosting your immune system. It's making you overall a disease and problem fighting machine. Would you rather have a strong immune system when, you know, someone's poking through your skin with needles every day? It makes you far less likely to have infections. A strong immune system, that nutrition can help you. In fact, there's so much evidence that shares that certain food makes you more prone to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Certain food makes you less prone to cancer. So, control the things that you can. If you choose nutrition as one of your methods of fighting back, well, there are no real nasty side effects of quality nutrition. I was willing to sign up and take those bags of chemo every 3 weeks because I knew they were going to be a big part of my cure. But they definitely came with consequences. Eating tomatoes, no consequences. No consequences. So when you empower yourself, when you make your body stronger, you help your case as well as cutting out cigarettes and alcohol and processed meats and overly processed foods in general. And there's a lot of things you can do to make yourself a hostile environment for cancer.
Well, plus also when you're dealing with something as severe as cancer, you're basically trying to do everything you can to support what your body does naturally, and that's to heal.
Yes.
So why wouldn't you support it nutritionally? I mean, just it kind of makes sense, really.
It makes
What do you do now though today? How is your daily kind of schedule? Like, what's your wake up routine? What's your motivation today? Like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I do a lot of traveling, but I'll talk first about my days at home. I start every day with my doggos. We go to the dog park. I normally eat a Kind bar and a banana while I'm there. It's nice to have fresh air time outdoors, be a little active. I come home and I get some work done. I go to the gym. I'm either doing cardio or strength training. I am a petite woman. I'm a slender woman, but I strength train like a monster every other day because I think, Jennifer, you can vouch for this. Strength training is the fountain of youth. It's the best part of our bodies. It makes us resilient. It makes us less likely to have sprains, strains, and tears. It certainly provides beautiful curves and capabilities. So strength training is a high priority for me, as is balance training. I don't just preach about balance training. I do it. I stand on a bozu on one foot with my eyes closed because I don't want to fall. And anyone who's opposed to falling should pursue balance training. And if that sounds complicated, all you got to do is stand on one foot. And if that's easy, stand on one foot and flap your arms, stand on one foot and close your eyes. It's the easiest thing you could do. But we know that falls are the number one cause for premature death in elderly people. So balance training is important. Flexibility is important. Mobility, your joints should go through their full range of motion every single day. That doesn't seem like a luxury. So yeah, my days are, I do a lot of sitting at a computer because I have a lot of work to do. But I'm outside as much as possible. I'm active as much as possible. There's deliberate exercise every single day. And I have an outdoor shower, and that is my zen place. So I go shower in the backyard in the sunshine. It's enclosed, but it's enclosed only the sidewalls. It's magic.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny when you said, when you were talking about balance, the first thing that went into my mind is I'm a dancer, a social dancer.
Wow.
And balance is like a major part of that, but I never think about it that way. I mean, I'm just there to have the fun and interact with my dance partners and take the classes and all that. But yeah, I mean, that's actually part of what you learn when you learn the various social dance methods, the different styles, is you learn how to retain your balance while you're doing all these steps. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to go out of balance. You really have to focus on, okay, stay here, stay focused, stay on that center point of balance as you do this kick or that, whatever. Yeah, it's a big part of it.
So it's interesting how a few people focus on balance. Maybe they've never been taught. Maybe they've not had Fitz Koehler in their ear saying this is an important pillar of fitness. And we talk about that in the book, all 4 pillars of fitness. But, balance doesn't seem really important until you're face down on the pavement and you think, dang it, and there's a thing called proprioception. If the audience is someone unfamiliar, proprioception is your body's ability to naturally respond to an imbalance. And so if you're walking down the sidewalk, for example, and half of your right foot goes off the sidewalk into the grass, if you have quality proprioception, as your foot is starting to twist out, you just naturally retract, right? You're good at balance. So your ankle knows what to do, keeps you upright. You stay on the sidewalk, keep moving forward. If you have not been practicing balance and you don't have good proprioception, when that foot starts to go, your ankle rolls, and as does the rest of you, and you eat the grass and it tastes real bad. So balance training is very, very important. And please don't wait until you're 68 and think, oh, I'm going to do balance training. And you can, but it's much better to just include, 2-3 minutes of it every single time you work out. You stand on one foot. If you do any sort of exercise on one foot, dancing is a good choice. Martial arts are a great choice. Tai Chi, lunges, that's single. When you take a big lunge, your feet start to engage, your ankles, your knees, your hips start to adjust. And when you do balance training, you should wobble. It's funny, you get that yoga instructor and she could stand there with her foot above her head, perfectly still. If she's the only one doing that, she's the only one not making progress. Balance training should specifically look wobbly. Your body should be adjusting, and that's how it becomes better. So, please do that simple task, and you won't have a black eye or a fractured hip in your future.
Well, then I'm glad that I'm doing it right, because very often in classes, I'm off balance all the time trying to find, okay, where is the center of balance on this thing?
Bravo. Every time you wobble, you're making progress. So keep going, Walt.
That is a really great thing. I love that. Something else you were talking about too. You everything that you have been talking about has been basically tied to what I would call the mindset of finding what feels good. And I don't know if you thought about it in those terms as you were going through it. But I kind of get the feeling that was like an underlying current, if nothing else. And then you also talked about, how everything tasted like black dirt, I think was the phrase that you used to describe that. And for me, a big part of mindset is appreciation. I'm wondering, do you appreciate food more now that you're past that? Does it taste better?
I definitely did for a while. When I got my taste buds back, it was miraculous. So this is one of my great imperfections. I'm a Diet Coke drinker. I like 1.5 Diet Coke, and I have one a day, and I don't feel even slightly bad about it. But yeah, that was one of my first things to go. I got a drink, and I was like, oh man, I can't enjoy this. I couldn't have a Diet Coke for 6 months. So definitely being able to taste food properly for a while felt pretty good. Now, I am 2.5 years out of treatment. My tummy is still not awesome. So I don't have my vast eating capabilities as I did before cancer. It's certainly left, I'm dinged up. I'm also awesome. I'm very vibrant. I ran the Boston Marathon last year. I do obstacle course races. I'm very healthy. I consider myself better than ever, yet there's some dings, right? It's like that old truck that keeps going, and it's fine. It's fine. But I am very appreciative. I'm appreciative of being able to work hard. It was, I think, a month after chemo ended, I signed up for a Spartan 5K, which is an obstacle course race. Now, I went out just for fun, and I definitely was the slowest person out there, but I had more laughs than everybody else. I was definitely covered in mud, and it was a blast. And then I got a little cocky. And so the next week I signed up for a sprint triathlon, or a mini sprint triathlon. And I started first out of all the mini sprint triathlon people, and I suffocated for the whole 200-yard swim. 200 yards is not a very long way to swim, but I hyperventilated half that. And then I got on the bike and I began to ride the furthest I've ever ridden in my entire life. It was 11 miles. And at mile about 8, I was thinking, gee, this is really hard. And, yikes, what did I get myself into? And then the final hill going up to the finish line was very steep. And so I was forced to stop. I was forced off my bike, and I was actually hyperventilating, just, and this really nice volunteer came over. I was dead last finisher. So there was a police car behind me. That's how we sweep races and make sure everybody gets home safely. As a cop, usually will ride behind the final athlete just to make sure everybody gets home. So there's the cop with the flashing lights, and I'm a trim person. They're probably totally confused as to why I'm this catastrophe on her bicycle, why I'm so out of shape. But I'm buckled over and trying to push my bike up. I couldn't even tell the volunteer what was wrong with me. I couldn't say chemo. I had the weird little short hair, but I don't think he knew because I had a helmet. Anywho, all I could think as I was buckled over suffocating was how awesome it was that I was doing this hard thing, because the hard thing I was doing exactly 12 months prior was the meanest part of chemo. I mean, that was brutal. That was difficult. sucking wind on the way up a hill with a bicycle. What a blessing. That was like up my alley. So I was dead last finisher on the swim, dead last finisher on the bike. I walked and I did a little running, but mostly walking for the last 2 miles on foot. And nobody crossed the finish line prouder than I was. It was just so freaking great. And so I have high expectations for myself professionally. When it comes to my personal life, I'm in for having fun, having adventure. I don't care about impressing anyone. I don't care what anyone thinks about me or my speed or my lack of it. I am purely out for a good time. And thanks, Cancer, because, Cancer certainly has had some silver linings. I was a gamer before, and now I'm utterly fearless, almost in a problematic way. So I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to kick the bucket early. So I am partially restrained, but I'm afraid of nothing. Thank you, Cancer.
I mean, I love that. I love that entire perspective. I like the appreciation. I like all of that. That's inspiring. That's really, really great. And especially your perspective on, gasping for air as you're walking your bike up the hill. It's not the way everybody else is seeing you, but wow, what a great way to look at your own situation. Like, this is improvement. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible to me how many people are like, oh, I was 10th. I can't believe I'm so embarrassed. Who cares? Who cares? Like, if I went and ran 4 races this week, it would not affect either of you at all, or my family, or my, who cares what I'm doing with my body at any given moment? So, stop beating yourself up, people. Stop comparing yourself to others. Stop having these bizarre high expectations. If you show up at a start line of any sort, or an athletic adventure of any sort, already you're a cool cat. You're there. Yeah. We think you're great. And whether you are the best or the worst, who cares? You're having a great experience. And I just think we benefit so much by going out and playing.
And you're giving yourself credit. I love that too.
Yeah. Do you coach people?
I do. Well, I don't do a lot of personal coaching. Almost everything I do is mass scale. So all of this nonsense coming out of my mouth right now is a lot of things you hear in a keynote. All of it's in my books. I'm a bit of a broken record. I feel very strongly about some of these topics, and I bring them to large scale audiences. I would do some coaching if I could be convinced, but most everything I do is large scale.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean large scale? Like, is it a workshop or like?
Yeah. So online courses, I don't do anything privately. That's what I'm saying. I really don't do stuff where an individual or a small group hires me. I do or corporations hire me to come in and speak for their employees or for their consumers. So Disney, for example, used to bring me in regularly to speak to their employee base. So before COVID, I was there on the regular talking to their cast members, as they're called. And then Tropicana would hire me to speak to their consumers, represent their brand. But yeah, so I don't do a lot of small scale individual things. I could be convinced on occasion to do something like that, but I put my effort into things that can reach a lot of people with one fell swoop.
Well, you're a big personality anyway. I mean, putting you into a small room with a small group of people, I don't think it really fits. I mean, I don't know your career as like a race announcer, but I can see it. It's just so obvious. You'd be the one who'd be out there just jazzing the whole crowd up, getting them excited for the start of the race and all that kind of thing. That's more your style.
I do. But sometimes, like, I have an executive leadership keynote I'm doing in just a couple weeks, and I think there's 27 of them. Mm-hmm. But man, that's a nice sized group. They're leaders within their organization. So if I can get them to do better, if I could get them to think better and be better and represent themselves and the organization better, that's going to have a trickle down effect on everybody else, on the lower management, on the employees. When you start thriving and you change your attitude and you up your game, people around you start upping their game as well. So, I like targeting big things.
I'm also imagining you, because anytime that you're dealing, particularly with the corporate culture, you're dealing with whoever is at that level in that corporation, and it's going to be a mixture of people. I mean, upper level tend to be a little bit more type A, but nevertheless, it's going to be a mixture of personality types and so forth. And it reminds me of a story that Sean Aker, I don't know if you know who Sean Aker is. He's one of the spokesmen of the positive psychology movement, author of the book, The Happiness Advantage. And he tells a story about how he was presenting at a corporation. I don't remember what the corp was. And he was giving his standard talk about, where happiness comes from and what the science is behind happiness and so on and so forth. And there was this one guy who was just harping on everything he said. And basically the first thing that came out of the guy's mouth was, yeah. We've heard this all before. Why are you wasting your time with all this kind of stuff? And, so he was pretty challenged by that. And, he actually got the guy to, participate in some of the little exercises that he had them do and so forth. But he really felt like he was, moving backwards with this guy. And after it was done, he was almost afraid to go talk to the organizer because of, this had been such a traumatic experience dealing with this one person in his audience. The organizer came up to him and said, "What did you do? We've never gotten that much response out of him before." So once again, the perspective is all completely different depending on where you come from. And you're going to be just dealing with different personality types. I imagine you've experienced that directly with many of the groups that you've talked to.
Of course I have. And, it's interesting. So I own it. I am very bossy. I'm extremely bossy. I'm very noisy, and I lean in. I poke people in the chest. I shake them, and I tell them the truth. And one of the greatest bits of feedback I get from individuals is, thank you for the brutal honesty. I needed to hear that. Nobody else was willing to tell me. And so I come armed with a hell of a lot of science to back me up. I'm not making anything up. I've got some ideas, as we've discussed. These are my attitudes, but I think they're good ones, and I'm happy to share. But whether I'm talking to someone who's on a lower end of the totem pole or the higher end, I can yank the best out of them. And so there's encouraging, there's nudging, and then there's yanking, and I'm willing to yank. And, I get away with all the bossiness and all the noisiness because it all comes wrapped in love. And so when I speak to people, they know that I mean it and I'm serious, but I really care. And so I get away with a lot of things because it's warmth, and the intentions are good. And usually I'm able to get people to step outside their little box and commit to doing X, Y, Z to elevate their game in whatever direction we're talking about. If we're talking about health and fitness, well, gee whiz, that's easy for me. But there's some very important professional subjects people need to get their stuff together on. I talk to a lot of real estate agents or real estate conferences. Those people are a very interesting group. And I love targeting real estate groups. They're fun to work with.
That's very cool. That's really cool. When you're dealing with the various personality types that are out there, and you're bossing them,
yeah,
and you're getting real with them. I mean, I think that's my way of saying that what you were talking about. That reality is genuine. I mean, whenever we see somebody interacting with us on a genuine basis, it almost doesn't matter what they're saying or how they're saying it. What matters is that it feels real. And that's going to connect on any level. And then if you throw in humor and smiles and that kind of perspective, God, I can't see how you could lose, actually.
Well, what's interesting is I think buy-in is really important. So two things. I never talk at a group. And I never put on a PowerPoint and read words that are on the PowerPoint.
Thank goodness. I appreciate that.
So dismissive. I almost never put words on a PowerPoint if I use them at all. But I never talk at people. I talk to them. And in order for me to convince you that, let's stick with health and fitness, that exercising is a good idea, we have to talk about why. So it's getting people to buy in that this is a good idea to begin with. Because if I just tell you, hey, I want you to go stand on one foot with your eyes closed and flap your arms, you might think, well, that sounds absurd, but if I make the case that falling down feels really bad and concrete tastes gross and yada, 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 you may go, oh, okay, this does sound like an easy solution to what may be a future problem. So yeah, you got to get the buy-in, you got to engage, you got to get them to buy in, you got to get them excited. And that's one of the things I love about live audiences is when people, they're listening to you and the heads start nodding. That's my feedback. That was actually one of the most punishing aspects of the COVID debacle is, people doing online courses. I'm happy to speak online. This is comfortable as well. But sometimes I'd have 50 people. I could see none of them. None of them. Or I could see maybe 3 people in a cubicle and they had their mask on. And so I couldn't see a smile. I couldn't get I couldn't experience their buy-in, which was really unnerving. I would continue on just hoping. I hope they get it. I hope this makes sense to them because I can't see them coming back. But,
I get it, because when you do a podcast, especially before we had Zoom and StreamYard and all these guys, and it was all purely audio, you had no idea how the audience was reacting. You didn't even know if there was an audience. You didn't even know if anyone was listening. And it takes you have to kind of make a mental shift in terms of, I'm not really looking for a particular audience response. The way I did it was I focused on what would I want my response to be. And so I talk to myself in that sense, even though I was always talking with a co-host or a guest or something like that. But it was always, if I were the audience, how would I respond to that situation? I don't know what your technique is. How did you deal with that?
I think some of the topics I talk about are just so natural that I just imagine they're agreeing. Just imagine they're nodding their head. That's probably where I went with it. Does this make sense? I'd nod my head and move on.
Yeah, sometimes that's all you have to do. It's just, it's perspective. Everything. This is the word that comes up more than any other word on this podcast partly because I've learned over the years just how wonderful perspective is, particularly if it's a perspective I don't like. I like to mention that often. And I don't get a lot of perspectives on here that I don't like. I like most of them. I like almost all of them. But every once in a while I get that really challenging one. And then after the show, I have to kind of grit my teeth and say, okay, where was the good part of this?
Oh, okay.
But they're also the ones that I learned some really cool stuff from. So that's why I've really come to appreciate, that different perspective may be really uncomfortable, but if I give myself some attention to it, I can usually pick something up I hadn't picked up before. And you get a new tool. That's great.
And sometimes we have role models in good ways. You hear someone that you want to be like, you hear what they're saying. You're going, yeah, I want that. And then you hear somebody saying something that's not so clever. And you think, I don't want to be like that. This is a good reminder, lesson learned to avoid that path or that frame of thought. So freedom of speech, open speech. I think there's benefits to it no matter what's going on.
Is there anything on your website that you're promoting on the website other than your book? Are you doing any retreats? Anything that I can join, listen in on? For health?
Yeah, that's so nice of you to ask. So my race announcing calendar is on there. Okay. And I think I only have the spring listed right now, but I love it when friends show up at my races. So some of them are full-length marathons, which are a big deal. But all of the big races always have smaller races attached. Half marathon, often a 5K, which is only 3 miles, sometimes a 1 mile or a kid's race. So, I just adore it when people come out to see me, and many do. So maybe I'm coming near you, Jennifer, and you could come see me and I could give you a big finish line welcome and a finish line hug. I don't have my keynotes, listed because they're private events.
Yeah.
So I don't put them on there. Okay. I do have an online course, which is fairly new. I released it in the fall. It's a little over 5 hours long, and it's perfect for somebody who, just wants all the answers in one place. My commitment to folks is never to lie to you. I do not sell diets or pills or powders or shakes or supplements or any of that snake oil. I take you through the journey of how to train yourself. Here is how to strength train every single muscle. Here's how to stretch every single muscle. This is how you should approach cardio and balance. We talk about training while traveling, training as a parent, the exact formula for weight loss, which is really just teaching people how to eat the right amount of the right food for the size they want to be. So that course is called Fixing Your Life with Fitzness. And so many people, it's interesting. I love getting someone who says, I watched it last week and I've already lost 6 pounds. And that's really exciting. I mean, it's the long-term impact you're going for, but it's nice to give somebody practical, pragmatic information and have them find so much success with it so quickly. And
it's for everybody, not just people that have cancer.
Oh yeah, that's a general public thing. What's interesting is, I mean, every day I get a message from someone that says, my dad has pancreatic cancer. Can you get him your book? My mom has this. Can you get her book? And I love having this resource. It's really good knowing I can help these people. And then there's a less good side is now I'm at almost the cancer maypole, right? I've created this resources. So I'm constantly hearing what could be perceived as bad news, right? But I also see so many great success stories in cancer. And I want people to know that early detection does save life. It saves mine. And most early detection cancers are cured. So definitely be diligent about your body. But my market is the general public. I do have this cancer focus, but really the majority of what I do are for the masses. And hopefully most people won't have cancer.
Mm-hmm. So it's just really like, again, it's like the after story of everything, just the upkeep and the maintenance of being healthy and happy and all those things that you put together to create well-being, whether you're sick or you're not, essentially.
Yeah. And what's interesting is sometimes people will have no regard for their health. Mm-hmm. And then they get diagnosed with something horrible. And then they're laser focused, all they want in the world. They would give it all up, the boats, the cars, the fancy homes, just to have health. And what my hope is that people don't wait for a terrifying diagnosis or an injury to focus on health. I mean, right now you can make progress. Can you go from 0 to 100 in anything? No. If you decide you want to learn how to speak French and then tomorrow you take your first class, don't expect to be fluent by the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month. It's going to take consistent effort over time. And that's the same thing with exercise and nutrition is, you make one positive forward motion today and then you do a little bit more tomorrow and so on and so on. It's very much like learning a language. You cannot become fluent in anything in a hurry, nor can you be elitely fit in a hurry. So just take it slow, take it easy. When you know better, you do better. That's why I try to provide as many resources as possible, because once I get in your head and I teach you how things really work, you start going, okay, well, that makes sense. I can't not do that now. She made it sound so easy. So, don't wait for crisis to strike. Prepare your body to do battle today. Make your body as healthy as humanly possible and resilient, resistant to disease. And know that if you are faced with illness or injury, if you are focusing on your health and fitness, you will rebound and recover far more easily than if you hadn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That's really great. There's one other thought that was going through my mind just now as you were talking, because I don't think you've actually used this word, but it's a word that fits everything about your life, how you approached dealing with the cancer you were experiencing, how you approached the after cancer life and so forth. I mean, you made reference to the health side, but this one guest who was on recently, he said he wants to go beyond health into vitality. And your story is all about the vitality, even though you haven't used that word.
No, you know what? I say vibrant a lot, but vitality is a good choice. Yeah, that's another good. I love words. I'm a thesaurus reader. Yeah, that's a great ad, vitality.
Well, it fits everything that you've described. Everything about what you have done to approach this entire topic has been about, I want to go for the vitality. I want to go for, like you said, the vibrancy. I want to go for the gusto.
Yeah.
I'm not going for a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what? None of us have mentioned thong bikinis. Like none of us are like, I'm going to try to figure out how hot I can look on spring break. Those days are gone, right? We can all look our best, but health is about the way we feel, the way our body performs, the way it moves, and, longevity. And because it's night, I would love to be in my 90s, but I don't want to be in my 90s if I'm just stuck in bed all day, right? So get there in a way that allows you to still go out and have some fun, do some golfing, some dancing, whatever the heck it is you want to do. When I talk to children's group, I always ask, who would rather be stuck in bed or would you rather be the breakdancing grandma? And everyone chooses breakdancing grandma and grandpa, hands down. So, set the bar pretty high for yourself.
Absolutely. I like that a lot. I actually think about that a fair amount of time in that I have longevity on both sides of my family. I have a great grandmother on my mother's side who made it to 108. And I have an uncle on my father's side who's still alive at 106. So there's a very good chance I'm going to make it to the 3 digits. And just the way you described, I intend to go flying through those 3 digits, on the dance floor. I mean, it's just, there's no second level here. I'm going for the gusto. Yeah, that's the way to go. Anything else here that you need to be telling us about? I mean, you've got the book that's coming out and the work. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you about, the journal that goes along with that. Cause you kind of touched on the value of basically getting this stuff out, but talk about that a little bit more, because journaling, I think, is one of those topics. I know it was for me for the longest time. It was something I resisted. I even talked about that here on the program. And it wasn't until I recently went through a separation, leading to divorce that I actually said, okay, I'm going to sit down and do some journaling. And it helped. It helped a lot in terms of what I was trying to accomplish, which was to get myself off of that feel sorry for me place. Yeah. I'm in this terrible situation, into where I wanted to be instead, just because I was able to kind of get all that crap out on paper. And I've got a notebook here filled with all the stuff that I got onto that paper. Am I going to read it again? Heck no, but I got it out.
Yeah. So the journal is called the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. It's the companion to Your Healthy Cancer Comeback. And it's a place for people to put in all of their details, their oncology details, diagnosis, their treatment plan, their cancer center, their doctor's names, and so forth. But then also a place to reference their fears, their faith, their friendships. Who's the best shoulder to cry on? Which friend sends the funniest, most uplifting text? Which friend or family member is getting in your way and is super annoying? Have you given your port a nickname? And which, have I already told you this already? I feel like did I tell you this?
At the beginning, you did talk a little bit about it, but not in the same sort of flow. Like you were just kind of sprinkling it out there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, have you nicknamed your tumor? Have you nicknamed your port? What celebrity do you look like bald? So it's that cathartic place to put your feelings, your fears, and then also a place to have some fun. And, I encourage strawberry moments. And strawberry moments are a way to recognize the best part of your day, because it's fair to be sad. It's fair to cry. I cried every day, but it's not okay to wallow in it. That's when it becomes a problem. Then that's where you can go into deep, dark depression. And so force yourself to acknowledge the silver linings. Something great is going to happen that day. Maybe you had a hunky doctor or a very sweet nurse, or, I don't know, whatever it was. Maybe you got a wonderful text from a friend, but strawberry moments are a big part of this journal. And the last half of the journal is daily fitness logs. So you can put in, your nutrition for the day, how much water you drank, when you went to sleep, when you woke up, what exercise you did, your strawberry moments, and then track your progress from sick to strong. So like I said, I'm hoping if anyone knows a cancer patient, we all do. We all love someone with cancer. And what we think is, gosh, I wish I could do something for them. This is something you can do for them. Everybody else is bringing over a hot dish, and that's a nice thing too. But this book will actually help them rebuild their body and hopefully take their mind with them. So thank you so much for asking. The books are on sale at fitzness.com. That's F-I-T-Z as in zebra. NESS. That's my headquarters for everything. So if you want any fitness advice, articles, recipes, workout videos, it's all on fitzness.com. And the books are for sale there. Now the books are for sale everywhere books are sold. However, if you come to fitzness.com, I sign every last one of them.
Wow.
I send my books out with a free gift, and then I send them out in really pretty packaging, because I think that's just I love getting pretty mail. So I want my readers to have a fun experience when my books show up, and they are so vibrant and pretty. My graphic designer has done a beautiful job. And so they're not dark and gloomy and scary like all the other cancer books. They're uplifting and fun. Like, this is a stupid cover of my Noisy Cancer Comeback. Don't I look like, hooray, I have cancer?
Pretty much.
That's what I want people to feel like. You know what? I can do this. I can do hard things. Does this suck? Absolutely. But is there a light at the end of the tunnel? You betcha.
Well, there's also a lot of evidence behind the idea that if you can find a way to feel good or feel better about the thing that you don't like, it's going to become less of a thing that you don't like. It's going to become less hateful, less scary, less frustrating, less depressing, less raging. It's going to be less of all those things simply because you're looking at it so differently.
Absolutely. Mindset matters. It's not, a magic pill, but boy, does it go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Really good. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us and sharing your story here on the program. Second of all, I got to give you a little, piece of information that I give to all of our wonderful giving guests like yourself. And that is a little perspective and appreciation, because there are many people whom you've never met, whom you've never seen, who've perhaps read your book. They've seen you on a show like this, heard you on a podcast, and you'll never find out exactly what happened with them, but you helped them in some way, maybe through one of your books, maybe through something, an inspiring story that you told, something like that. And I think we deserve to be recognized for that. So on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, what you have done all this time, what you're continuing to do, because you're really contributing in a major way.
Wow. Thank you. This was a very fun conversation. You guys are outstanding to talk to. And if anyone wants to connect, I'm on social media at Fitzness. And, what I ask is if you follow, I promise I'll provide some quality content that'll help you do better, be better. But really what I'd love to hear is, I heard you on Walt and Jennifer's podcast, and I would love to say hi because I'd much rather have friends than followers.
Beautiful. I love that. Jennifer, any last words before we sign off for the day?
No, I'm feeling more uplifted. I'm feeling more inspired. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping us achieve our daily dose of happy. It's a wonderful thing. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.